Okay, welcome to today's food history seminar. Today we have Sharon Hudkins with us, who's going to be talking about the symbolism and significance of Mongolian ritual milk spoons. So I'll just give a bit of a background about Sharon, and then she can get going, and then there'll be plenty of time afterwards for any questions and discussion. So please do use the chat. Raise your hand if you do have any questions at the end as well. So Sharon is an award-winning author, editor, journalist, and historian. She is a former university professor whose academic background is in Russian studies, strategic studies, and filmmaking. And she has written 5 books, including 2 cookbooks, edited various others, and edited a culinary magazine in the US. She has presented 10 papers at the Oxford Symposium on food and contributed several entries to Oxford Culinary Encyclopedias. She's more than 1,000 articles and research papers on food, travel, culture, and history have been published in magazines, newspapers, academic journals, and online. So she's been very busy over her career. And as a culinary history speaker, she has also given lectures on numerous tours with National Geographic, Smithsonian, Viking, Silversea, Oceania, and Rhodes Scholar, including tours to Mongolia itself. So today, as I say, Sharon's going to be talking on the symbolism and significance of Mongolian ritual milk spoons. So over to you, Sharon.
Thank you very much for that introduction, Matt. And thank you to the Food History Seminar for inviting me to speak with you all today. By way of introduction to the subject, I want to say just a little bit more, answer some of the questions that Matt and Kelly were asking me before we started. And that was, how did I get interested in this rather esoteric subject to begin with? And what happened was, in the mid-1990s, I lived in Siberia and the Russian Far East, teaching at 2 major state universities there. And in southern Siberia, I was only 100 miles north of the Mongolian border. And I knew ethnic Buryat Mongolians who lived on the Russian side of the border. And I've written about their foodways, and it's been published in various academic journals. But I never encountered these ritual milk spoons when I was among the Buryats in southern Siberia. And then in 2006, National Geographic asked me to be their Russia expert on Trans-Siberian railway tours from Vladivostok on the Pacific Ocean, 5,771 miles, to Moscow, with a detour down into Mongolia for several days on each trip. And later on, I've done the same trip with Smithsonian. And on the first trip in 2006, almost 20 years ago, I was in a shop in Ulaanbaatar, the capital of Mongolia, and it had a lot of traditional Mongolian items for sale. And there were 3 of these hand-carved wooden something or others. I didn't know what they were, but they looked interesting to me. And I, as a culinary historian, probably like a lot of you, I've got a house full of kitchen utensils and kitchen implements and all kinds of things, collected from all over the world. And I collect especially ones that are hand carved, butter molds, gingerbread molds, springerly molds, things like that. And these things looked really interesting to me. I had never seen anything like these things in Mongolia. And so I looked on the tag, and it said in Russian, it said they were milk spoons. And I asked the shop girl, and she wasn't able to explain much about them. I bought the only 3 they had. And in subsequent trips back to Mongolia, I started looking for them because they were interesting. I started asking Mongolians about them, trying to find research on them. It was very hard to find. It was very hard to find any. There's not just an article written about them, but in various ethnographic studies done by Westerners and by Mongolians and by Russians, they've been mentioned in passing. So I have, found a large body of research to put together on that. And so let me go on from this point. I now have in my own collection 22 of them. This is my name. This is, if you have questions afterwards that we don't get to today, you can contact me through my website, or I should have put my email address up here too. It is just sharon@sharonhudgens.com. So either way, you're welcome to contact me. So I did as much research as I could. I looked at 58 of these to put together an article, first a paper for the Oxford Symposium on Food in 2013, and then this paper that was published in Mongolian Studies, the Journal of the Mongolia Society, in 2014. And that's the title of the paper. And if you want to read the whole thing, which is really much more in depth than I can go into today, and half of which is footnotes that have a whole lot more information in them too, you can find it on JSTOR. And if you can't access JSTOR, then you can email me and I'll be happy to send you a copy of that paper too. So we need to start with what the Mongolians eat and why milk is so important before we get to the spoons about it. Because meat and milk are really the mainstays of Mongolian cuisine. Traditional, and I'm talking about the nomadic Mongolians particularly, but even people in the cities feel this way a lot too. From October to April, meat was their primary food, sometimes their only food, and preserved milk products. And then from April to October, during the time when the young animals have been born and the herds are being built back up after the slaughters in the autumn and winter, and the mother animals are lactating, there's a lot of milk. And so milk is what the Mongolian people, or certainly the nomads, mostly lived on: milk and preserved milk products. And so the milk comes from what they call the five muzzles, and those are sheep over here on the right being milked, goats, cows, and they put cows and yaks like this in the same category. So that's the third muzzle: sheep, goat, cows and yaks, and a cow-yak hybrid, which is called a hainog. And then the fourth one is horses, and they get a lot of mare's milk. Mare's milk is really important in their cuisine and their rituals. Bactrian camels in the Gobi Desert. So that's number 5. And then they should add number 6, which I do, which is reindeer. There's a group of Mongolians who live in the northwest part of the country, bordering on Siberia and bordering some on China too. And those are people who are known as reindeer herders, and they milk the reindeer like this and make milk products from it. So the products that come, milk and the products that come from it, are known as white foods. And white foods have a sacred spot symbolically in Mongolia. They represent purity, innocence, light, nobility, all the things I have up here on the screen. And so white is really an important color. It's considered the mother of all colors, from which other colors descend. So they make a tremendous number of milk products that you have probably never heard of. Certainly I hadn't tasted before I was in Mongolia. I mean, besides things like butter and cream, they make a huge number of different things out of cream, yogurt-like things, fermented drinks, distilled alcoholic drinks. I have one Buryat Mongolian cookbook that has 22, as a separate chapter, just on milk products, and it's got 22 different things that you make out of milk. And I'm not talking about combining milk with something else, except maybe with tea or maybe with a little bit of grain, which helps the separation of the milk. So here's an example, for instance, of Mongolian cheese, one of many kinds, drying on the outside of the ger, the kind of yurt that the nomads live in. These are, I call them jawbreakers. These are dried milk products like dried yogurt and dried cheese and other things like that. They're super hard. Some are very sour, some are more mild. And you just put them in your mouth, stick them in your cheek, and let them melt, because you'll break your teeth if you try to bite down on them. And milk, of course, in addition to being used as a food, is, because it's so important and so sacred, it's used in these Mongolian milk rituals. And mainly it's fresh milk that's used. Sometimes they use kumis, which is primarily mare's milk, usually, that is slightly fermented. It's a slightly alcoholic drink. And something that's also the way they drink tea, milk tea, which is tea, often herbal tea or black tea or green tea, that is mixed with salt butter and maybe butter and flour, or a butter, rye flour, wheat flour, made into a roux essentially, and then the tea poured over it. So it's thicker, it's salty, it's buttery, creamy. It's very nourishing. But mainly they use the fresh milk in these rituals. So on the right, you see a lady performing the ritual, tossing the milk into the air. And the reason it's done is that milk is used as an offering to the spirits, as a way to ask the spirits for health and prosperity, or if you're ill, to get well, to convey blessings on people and animals and even objects. If people are leaving on a journey and you want to wish them protection on the journey, then you will toss milk at them as they leave. It's called sending them on the white way, sending them on the white path. If a storm arises and hailstorms are pelting down on your ger, the woman might go outside in there and toss outside the ger and toss milk to the gods in the sky, to cut the hailstorm and not damage the animals. When people get married, or when there's a horse race and you want to wish them success in their marriage or in the race, you can also toss milk onto them too. And then, especially the change of seasons, the Lunar New Year at late January, early February is really important for the milk ritual to be performed. Also, the winter and summer solstices, the spring and fall equinoxes. And what happens is that the woman, oh, here's a good graphic of it. The woman's head is always, it's mostly women who do these. Men do these when they're out moving the animals to different pasturage or something, but primarily women do them. And their head is covered as a sign of respect. I have on a hat or a scarf. And they carry the milk in one hand. You see here. Can you see my cursor on the screen? Is that showing? Yeah, okay. So there's the milk here, and she's tossing it into the sky. And it's believed that as you toss the milk into the sky with this milk spoon right here, that it multiplies. It becomes more drops than you've tossed into the sky. And you're tossing it into the sky because they believe that the universe is divided into the heaven above, the earth that we're on, and the underworld. And so you're tossing this up to the spirits in the sky. And depending on whether you're Buddhist, animist, shamanist, or a mix of these, you'll have a different concept of how many gods there are in the sky that you're tossing this to. It's rather complicated in that sense. But basically, the idea is you toss milk up into the sky as an offering, a supplication, a wishing for protection, etc. And here's the woman. And in the morning, after the milking's done, but before breakfast, it's traditional for the woman to go outside the ger and to toss the milk first up to the sky with a prayer, and then to toss it to the 4 cardinal directions of the compass: east, west, north, and south, and sometimes to the ordinal directions too, in between there. So that's typical. Sometimes in the evening, the woman will go out to the back of the ger and toss the milk again, especially if she needs to say prayers. And let me read to you one of the prayers that would be uttered when the milk is being tossed. This is just part of it. It says, "From the drops of milk to the gods, Father, Son, Motherland, Father, Son, Motherland, masters of nature, from the drops of the milk, pour back to humankind the rain that will wash away our pain, the wind that will blow away our suffering, the sunshine that will blossom our lives." So it gives you an idea of the general prayer they would say to the gods at that time. So here's some pictures of people doing it. You can see over here, there's the milk up in the air, and she's just got a plastic scoop or bowl that she's tossing it with. Here we've got them, people who are tossing it right here to welcome the day as the sun rises. And you can see a little better over here. The woman just carried it out in her teapot and puts the milk in it from that. Toss in the air. This one is on the beginning of the Lunar New Year. As the sun rises over the mountains, the milk is tossed into the air to welcome the new year and ask for a prosperous new year, a healthy new year, that kind of thing. And she's got just a plastic spoon she's carried with her. Here's a man at some festival in Ulaanbaatar, and he's brought his milk in a plastic bag down here in his left hand, and he's tossing it with something that looks like just a piece of rolled up paper or something. I can't really tell. So I don't know what he was doing that for. It's a photo by someone else. This one is during the Nadam Festival held in July. And here they have a lot of horse races, archery, and wrestling competitions. And this is at the horse races. Let me see if I can get the cursor there. He's got the bowl with the milk. What he's using to scoop it out and toss it to the sky isn't one of these traditional spoons. It's actually the other carved item that they make in Mongolia. And this is it's a sweat stick. It's for scraping the sweat off the horse during these horse or after these horse races. And he's using that also to toss milk to wish the riders good luck. Here, they're tossing milk on the horse, on the rider's boots. They'll toss it on the mane and the rump of the horse. The same thing if somebody's leaving on a motorcycle or in a car, you'll splash milk onto the tires, the fenders, the windshield. It's the same kind of thing. Your method of transport, you're wishing on its way. Here, the riders are going off, excuse me, to either probably join the race. And you can't really see, but the gesture is there, but they've tossed milk to send them on their way. I like this one. This is milk has been tossed onto the train as people are leaving on their journey by train. And here, as the plane is taking off, this woman is, notice her head is covered. This woman is tossing milk in the sky to wish them a safe journey on the flight. And nomads who've moved to the city and are now living in these Soviet-style Mongolian prefab apartment blocks, older people, especially people who still carry on the old traditions, will come out on the balcony in the morning to greet the day and toss milk off the balcony to the consternation of people who are walking to work down below. So it's still done in some urban areas. This one is a shaman who's tossing milk out of the bowl. It might be the last milk in the bowl because I don't know what the ritual was, but here is the milk spoon also for tossing certain number of droplets up to the spirits. When people go to a sacred spot that it'll be marked like this, called an ovo, O-V-O-O, ovo, ovu, these are blue silk scarves that are called hadag, and they're a symbol of respect, and they'll tie them on places on the rocks or on the wood at these sacred spots, and they can also toss milk onto these sacred spots. So they might leave a couple of cigarettes or a few coins or some hard candy that's wrapped, and then also as an offering, and then also toss milk onto the what is it, like a cairn or something at these sacred spots throughout the country. And this one's really interesting. This is way out in the Gobi Desert. And these are two stupas, essentially, that are, where is this? These are shaped like the breast of a mammal with a nipple on top. So we have two breasts, like a woman's breast, and then people splash milk onto the side of them like this. So most of the time, you use whatever you can. But if you want to use the ritual spoon, and most of the time that's what people would do if they have one with them. Certainly they have them in their gear in their homes. The spoon is called a tsatsal, and this is what we're going to look at now. So when I wrote the paper for Oxford and then for Mongolian Studies Journal, I had examined 58 of these milk spoons in my own collection, ones I've seen in Mongolia, ones I've seen in collections in Europe. Now I've examined more than 120 of them and updated my research since the time that those papers were published. So I'm including some of that information in the presentation today. And these are ones that I've seen from the 19th to the 21st centuries. And traditionally, they were made by the nomadic herders themselves. They were a folk art. You would make one for your wife or maybe your fiance and give it to her for the wedding present, or she might inherit it from her mother or grandmother as something that's passed down from one generation to the next. Also, around the Buddhist temples, the Buddhist monks made these, and we figure this because of the motifs on them that I'll show you in a minute. The Buddhist monks made these and sold them as religious art to people who came to worship at the temple. So you might get that as a kind of religious souvenir to take back to your ger or to your home in an urban area. And now today, since the time that I wrote these papers back 10 years ago or more, they're now being produced commercially for the tourist trade. So I'll show you examples of those at the end. And these have lots of different kinds of motifs on them. And it's really interesting to look at the different ones on them and see what, what the artist has chosen to convey and why. And they all have symbolic meaning. So they might be spiritual, they might be mythical things like dragons, certainly animistic things. So it's going to be, you can go over to the topographical one, mountains and steppes where people believe those have spirits too. The nationalistic symbol called the soyombo, which is on the flag of Mongolia. And sometimes there are realistic ones. There are animals on it, geometric ones, flowers, all kinds of things. And then often too, there'll be astronomical ones showing the sun, the moon, or the stars. So the spoons themselves consist of two different things. One over here on the left is the bowl, and this is what holds the milk. And then over here is the handle above it, which the bowl is attached to. And primarily they're made out of wood. I've seen ones that are carved out of soapstone, and I've seen pictures of the ones that were made out of brass and silver, and much more rarely reindeer antlers, because that would be only the people of the reindeer herders up in the Northwest that have access to shed antlers on their reindeer. So for wood, they're carved, wood and stone. For antlers, the motifs are scratched on them. Obviously, the motifs are made by molding the brass or silver, and they can be done by hand or they can be done by machine. The carving can be done by hand or now by machine, or also everything done by machine, which you'll see in a minute. The designs on these are primarily in bas relief. I have some that are totally flat and painted, but mainly they are natural wood like this. They're in bas relief. There are some that are full three-dimensional carvings on them. They can be etched, they can be painted, carved, as I said already. Some of them are gilded, sometimes now have wood-burned motifs on them. And then a lot of the time, the raw wood is just unfinished. Sometimes it's oiled or varnished or shellacked, and then, of course, polished if it's made out of metal. Again, the metal ones are rare, like the reindeer antlers. And then the bowl over here of the spoon. Most of them are square. Some are rectangular, some are a trapezoid like this, and much more rarely are round ones, but those are certainly interesting too. So here's some round ones to show you. This is a close-up of the one over here. And you see here, down at the bottom, the bowl of the spoon is round. This is the top of the spoon, the handle up here. And you go over here, and this is the wheel of life. It's a Buddhist symbol, the wheel of life. And there are 8 indentations in it between the spokes of the wheel, and then the axle makes 9. All right, so you've got 9 places where the milk is held. And those depressions in the bowl are called eyes. Primarily, they're called eyes, but they're often called things like holes, hollows, cavities, etc. So this shows you one here where you've got these pyramids, either 3, 4-sided pyramids carved into the wells of it. And the eyes themselves can be square, or they can be rectangles, or they can be triangles within the square or rectangle. They can be round, like here. This is more rare. Or wedge-shaped, like I just showed you, if it's a wheel of life, a circle or something. And really rarely a floral or flame or jewel motif for this. So look, this one's really unusual. So this is flames, all right. And the number of eyes, most of the time it's 9. A grid of 3 by 3. That is very much the most common, and that's what you'll see on the examples today, most of them. But they do vary by region and ethnic group, by the particular ritual, especially ethnic group, how many spirits you think are in the sky that you're tossing milk to. But as I say, the most common number is 9 in the 3x3 grid pattern, and 9 and 3 are both auspicious numbers for Mongolians, sacred numbers. So here you see this one. So 3x3 grid for the milk. And up here, so now we're getting on up to the handle, but right here in this transition from the bowl of it to the handle, you do have a bowl, which can be the Buddhist begging bowl. It can be the bowl that the milk, representing the milk that you have in your other hand. These are the 3 precious jewels. Oops, right here. Get this 3 precious jewels of another Buddhist symbol. This one's interesting because you've got 3x3, and then each one of those eyes or holes is divided in by these into 4 more. So this one has 36. So you've got 36 indentations holding the milk, which means more of that going up into the sky. And this is one that's got each 3x3 grid is divided into 3x3 grids of its own. So you get 9x9 or 81 holes holding the milk. And then we get to the handles, and most of the time they're flat like this. Some are slightly curved. Most of the time the designs are just on the front, but occasionally on the back and sides. And again, they can vary a lot from half a foot to 1.5 feet, and width from, I've got one that's got a very small handle, only 1/2 inch across, to wide ones, 3.5 inches. So let's look at several examples of these, and these are from 19th century handmade ones to the 21st century factory-made ones that you're getting now. And as I say, I did not see any factory-made ones. The times I was in Mongolia in 2006 to 2008, 5 times there, and really they've only shown up around 2018, 2020. They're beginning to show up now, the factory-made ones. So this book it's the only thing I found that contains really good examples of these. It's got all kinds of household implements. It's an ethnographic book, and you can see in the pictures here the big variety of these milk spoons. But most of them have the 3x3 grid, 9 holes in them for the milk, with lots of different motifs on them. Here's some more. This one down here, though, has the larger number of holes. This one's got 9x9, 3x3, which makes 9 holes, but it's also got these 2. So here we have actually 11 holes for that one. And again, that's probably from a different ethnic group. And because horses are so important in Mongolian culture, and horse milk is really important, and they make kumis out of it, a major drink that they have there. So horses' heads appear on a lot of these. There we go. So we've got 3 with the horses' heads, and this one is just, it's called a horse head spoon. It does have the eternal knot, another Buddhist symbol right here on it, and you could use this too, to toss milk. And then this one over here has the eternal knot, the wheel of life, Buddhist symbols, and a bowl like this. These are interesting because this is the symbol for a married man, and this is a symbol for a married woman, and then the rest of these, this is an eternal knot. There are various Buddhist symbols on here, wheel of life. Oops, sorry. And go back if you want to see that a minute. This one over here it's got something written in Mongolian script, and I don't know what that is. I haven't nobody that's seen it's been able to figure out exactly what it is from the picture. It's not a picture I made. So but that's the only one I've seen that has had script on it. These are interesting, excuse me, because not only do they have the 3-dimensional animals on them, and in this case, it's horses. We've got, a horse's head here, and then we've got different ages of horses there. And there is the scoop at one end and the flat bowl. It's just the way the page is turned there. But the picture of the flat bowl is at the other end. So that's really unusual. Here's one that also has that. And again, with the horses, including a little foal there. And these are in the collection of the Danish National Museum in Copenhagen. And I've actually seen these in person too, but the lighting wasn't good enough to photograph them. Here's another one that's highly painted, really ornate, and it's got a whole lot of horses on it. And then we've got some of the animals of the zodiac, the 12 animals of the Mongolian zodiac calendar. So there's a rabbit, there's a cow, this looks like a horse, and this one's a dragon. And this one I found in an antique shop in Ulaanbaatar, the capital. And I really wanted to get it, but it was $400. And my husband holding it said no and put it back down. But I really wanted to get that one because it's got the yak, the sheep, the cow. Oh, this is, wait, we've got the horse, the camel, the cow, and well, I guess they put the yak in there too. All right. And we don't have goat. We've got the sheep. And then this is called the meander. There are 50 different ways that this kind of thing is done, and it's a symbol of nomadism, Mongolian nomadism. This one on the right is in my collection, and this is a similar one that someone sent me a picture of that have floral motifs only, except for right here is a hint at a Buddhist motif. And we surmise that these were made during the time of the Mongolian communist era when religions were suppressed. And so instead of putting religious symbols on them, they still did this, they did the ritual, but they had just floral ones, which were safer. These are ones from my collection. We have at the top the three flames. We've got the meander symbol, or Greek key, it's often called. Here, the eternal knot. Here, yin yang in the form of fish, and fish have symbolism, always vigilant. They never close their eyes. They intertwined husband and wife, that kind of thing. These are practically identical except for the bowls, made by the same carver, but this one has those unusual round eyes in it. And this one, which is probably made by the same carver too, the difference is that up at the top, it has the Mongolian national symbol, the soyombo, which has a lot of different meanings. Of each line of it, each part of the design has a symbolic meaning. And if you want to read my paper about it, it will explain all this to you. These were two really unusual ones. I've never seen ones like this before. And these are in my collection too. So we've got two slightly different bowls. But then when we get up here on the larger one, we've got yin yang and two elephants. And there aren't elephants in Mongolia. So this is probably a reflection of Hinduist influence too. And then up here is a Chinese torch dragon, which is the head of the dragon is here. It's a little hard to figure out. It goes this way from the head to the tail, and that's the flame on the tail. And so a torch dragon right here too has symbolism from Mongolians. And then you come down here from the dragon, you get to the yin yang again, and these are gazelles. So two very unusual ones here. This shows you the front and back. So this is the front side of these two made by the same carver, and then the back side, really highly decorated backside. And it's unusual to see a backside done quite that ornately. This is one of the first ones I bought, and I loved it because it's got the 5 muzzles on it. So each of the animals that the milk comes from. So we've got goat, sheep, cow or yak, horse, and camel. And then I would say you need to have a reindeer up there too for the 6th muzzle, but you can see them here much better. And this one was interesting. That's another one I got early on because I love the fact that it has all the animals of the calendar, the 12-month calendar. And based on the Chinese calendar and the lunar and astrological symbols and things like that. They get to be a mix of these in the Mongolian calendar. And up here we've got the three flames or the three pillars of Buddhism. But on the back side of this is the only other one I've got where the backside is really carved a lot. It's obviously for the tourist trade because it says Mongolia in English on it. So that's not something a Mongolian would particularly want. They meant like the front side of it. And then here a really nice scene of the Gers in the foreground, the Bactrian camels here, and then probably the moon because of all the dots, the stars, the moon and the stars in the sky over the mountains. And these are really unusual ones too. I've seen three of these, two are in my collection. These are flat and they've got a lot of Buddhist and calendar symbols on them all the way down. And this one has the bowl is each of the 9 eyes is divided into 4 more eyes. So it has 36 eyes total. And again, the Buddhist wheel of life, the bowl of plenty in this case, the eternal knot, etc. And these are strange. These are really different ones that a friend of mine has that has been among the reindeer herders in northwestern Mongolia. And she got these, and I really like them because they've got so much character and they're so different from the others. So each one of them has a horse head. And then they've got the animals, the muzzles carved on them too. And they're really neat. They're so charming because they look to me like ancient cave paintings, from 30, 40,000 years ago. They're so different from the other milk spoons and very crudely carved in the bowls. And this one's neat. It's got the horse head, but it's also got, this is the only one I've ever seen that has the 6 muzzles because it's got the reindeer on it too, right there. And then we go on down to the other, well, set 4. No, I guess we don't have 6 on that one. This one, really unusual, the serpent of the dark underworld. So this one is carved like this, the serpent's head all the way, and it's carved with serpent scales on the back too. Well, not scales, but diamonds. The one on the left is made of reindeer antlers. So that has been etched onto whatever color was put onto there first. And then these over here are both soapstone. And as this one is the one that I showed earlier, this has got, these are really different. No, that's sorry, it's not the one I showed earlier, but the same kind of thing. The wheel of life forms the eyes here, the 9 eyes for the milk. And then we've got the eternal symbol. We've got the Chinese shoe symbol for good luck. And on this one, these are slightly gilded, as you can see. Again, rather unusual to have that. And this one with round eyes. And this is one of mine that's got 81 eyes in it because it's got the, each one of those grids is divided into 9 more eyes. So it's very powerful when used. And again, with the horse symbol, we've got the sun, where there's 12 dots around this, so it's representing the calendar. A swastika, you might have noticed there were a couple of swastikas on the other ones that I showed. And if the arms of the swastika, it's an ancient symbol, if the arms are turning to the right, they're kind of mixed up here on this one, but here, yeah, if it turns to the right, they are it's the path of enlightenment moving forward. If the arms are turned to the left, it represents the footsteps of Buddha. And here we've got the sun rising, probably representing the sunrise of the first day of the new lunar year. This one is a more recent one. I got this in 2018, a little bit more crudely carved than the others I have. But again, we've got mixed into the meander symbol. We've got the swastikas also, and then the eternal knot, and up here, the combination of the sun, the moon, and the 3 flames, and the 3 pillars of Buddhism, wisdom and enlightenment and knowledge. And then look at the difference. These are ones now that are commercially made, being sold like this, not in a shop like I bought my others where there was 1 or 2, and I'd buy everything that they had because I didn't see them very often at all. And now we've got the horse head spoons like this, and then we've got the actual ones that are made with these bowls like that, and they're just all commercially made. This one is carved with a router. It's not hand carved. And now they're being made by machines like this that are loaded with these templates that will carve, the machine will carve the wood that you put into it or underneath the carving part. So this is the kind of milk spoon that you get now when it's carved entirely done by the machine. These are either painted or stamped with paint or ink, or sometimes they're wood burned on them. See, and you've got now they're marketing them like this in their own packaging, showing the spoon it used. Even in 2018, when I was at the big department store in Ulaanbaatar, and I saw these first ones that were machine made. I bought that one, the last one I showed you that was hand carved. And when I was standing in line with everybody else was Mongolians, I was standing in line to pay for it. And the middle-aged and elder Mongolian people recognized I was obviously not Mongolia. And they started asking me if I knew how to use it. And they were doing this with sign language and in Mongolia. And I nodded yes. But no, they wanted to show me. So all these women in line were standing there tossing, mimicking tossing milk into the air. So even in 2018, there are still people shopping in the department stores who know these things. And one woman was buying some of them, presumably as gifts. Here we've got the bowl of milk in the picture there. And these with plastic cabochons and just printed with ink on there, machine printed. These have the different animals of the calendar, the 12 different animals of the months of the Mongolian calendar. So presumably you might buy one of these from a child that's born in the year of the horse and give it to the child as a welcoming gift into the world. This is a little kid set. This is just miniature. It's really small, but it's for, teaching your little children to do this too. These are laser cut here, and then they're printed this with all machine done. And now this is a display. I mean, now buy this for a wedding gift, give the whole set to people, the bucket, for the milk and the tsatsal. Here's a really fancy display with, it's some kind of, I've had to try to get people to translate this for me, and they said it's really like some kind of certificate, maybe at the birth of the child or something, that this whole thing is to get you. And notice though, you got to have the milk there as part of the display. And I love this one. This is actually just a very crude one that someone sent me as a gift, but in the picture she took of it where it was displayed, here is mare's milk powder. So just like we have powdered cow's milk, you can carry mare's milk powder with you somewhere and mix it with water and then use it to toss up in the air. And this one is it's Mongolian tea from herbal tea from the taiga, the boreal forest up in the northwest part. And that's for making the milk tea also with this, and which you can use in these rituals sometimes. And then these really unusual looking ones are made in Russia, and they are for shamanistic rituals only. They're not the kind of household thing you would have at all. So anyway, that's the article. If you want to read it, there's a whole lot more information in it. There's a whole lot of information in the footnotes too. They're not just the citation notes. And so I will be willing to answer any questions you have after that. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you for that, Sharon. That was really interesting. I've just put into the chat to suggest if you do have any questions for Sharon, please do add that to the chat or raise your hand using the React button on Zoom. And we'll be really happy to have your questions. Oh, they're popping up already, so I won't ask any questions I've got for now. Brandy, do you want to go first and then Zahan afterwards?